We could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Greet your neighbor, please.
You're in the picture. How's that?
How's that? Is that better? Hi, Ann. All good stuff. We got some hugs out there, handshakes, fist bumps, all good. Today's invocation will be offered by Major Constance Higgins.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you, first of all, for blessing us with this day, for the beautiful weather, for waking us up this morning, bringing us here together in this place. We pray your blessing on this gathering, on these people, on this place, on this club, on Rotary International. Lord, we thank you for the food that was prepared for us. And Lord, we just pray that you would continue to bless it to our bodies so that it can strengthen us to serve you more. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Hey, we have a number of guests today. So we're going to make sure that everybody is introduced, has the opportunity to tell who is here. And let's see, if you have a guest, just raise your hand and Big Mike back here will take care of it. You got a guest over there, Big Mike. His name is actually Mike Davidson, but I just call him Big Mike because he's tall. Oh my gosh. Excellent. Welcome aboard. We got a guest up here. Past President Bob Gorman has a guest or two. Excellent. Who else? We've got more guests here. Oh, Melissa has some guests. Hi. Awesome. Good group. Any other guests that we're missing out there? Any other guests? Sure, you want me to get my lunch order now? Or now? Really? Mac and cheese looked phenomenal. The cobbler was sweet. I'll take some of that. So, you know, got a sweet tooth. So you just figure it out. Okay. See, that's what's great. So there's some good things about being the president, man. You get special orders by Sherry, so you can't beat that at all. Hey, we're gonna go to what do we have this weekend? This weekend it was. Am I doing the slides here, Cheryl? Like I'm a rookie, man. Okay. How about it was a wet weekend? Was it not a wet weekend? Absolutely craziness. Obviously, this isn't for our guests. Some are out of town. They're going, wow, that's flooded. Yeah, that's the fairgrounds. It only floods about 30 times a year. Okay, but yeah, our fairgrounds is in a floodplain, so not the best, long-term planning back in the day. But it was extremely wet this weekend. This is some shots out in the county. So for those, usually by mid-July, Northeast Ohio, the landscapers are just putting lines in the yard. They're really not mowing much, but the yards have been green throughout, and I know that everything is is nice and green. In honor of current President Terry Snoddy, he does this day in history. So I thought I'd highlight that. Hey, in 1848 today, July 19th, women's suffrage movement in the United States was launched with the opening of the Seneca Falls Convention, which sought to gain certain rights and privileges for women, notably the right to vote. Yeah, all right. Okay. That's good stuff. July 19th, 1969, Apollo 11 and its astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, but he kind of third string there, that sucks, went into orbit around the moon. That's pretty crazy stuff. And then how about this? 5 years ago to the date, Donald J. Trump accepted the nomination for the Republican Party at the Cleveland National Convention, which was a really great event for Cleveland. So, but even you look at that, I brought this up today, specifically this one, not because of Donald J. Trump, but rather think about that. That's been 5 years ago. It just seems like yesterday. So time does fly. Make sure that you enjoy every single day that God gives you. We have a couple of announcements from our members here, and actually one announcement from our member, Miss Samara Zimmerly. Would you have an update for us on Meals with a Mission?
You guys are probably going to get tired from hearing from us, so I apologize now. We are only 4 weeks out from our Meals with a Mission event. That is Monday, August 16th at TJ's. We did go live with our online registration where you can buy tickets online. We also put these flyers at your table. There is a QR code. If you take your camera and just act like as though you're going to take a photo, that'll bring you up to the website. There's also a website on there. And we did do paper tickets this year to try to accommodate everyone. And we'll have tickets sold at Long Cook and SAMHSA if you would like to do it that way. So we tried to be as accommodating as possible so no one has an excuse not to get tickets this year. Robin and Courtney are going to stay afterwards and have ticket sales with either cash or check. If you want to stop down to Long Cook and SAMHSA throughout the week, they will have them. And then you're also welcome to purchase them online as well at our Eventbrite link. I was going to offer a prize to the person that purchased tickets first, but nobody has purchased tickets yet. So no prize today. The food choices are on there, all of the information. We did change it this year to being outside as well. So we will have live music outside. Dan Pine will be playing music, so you can dine outside, dine inside, or do carry out if you've got a busy night. So I think the goal that there has been in the last several years is each member, we ask that you either purchase or sell 4 tickets. So if anyone has questions, let Courtney, Robin, or myself know, and we hope to see you all purchasing tickets very soon. It's zucchini noodles. So we actually had that last year as our vegetarian option, and it was very popular, so we kept it. Thank you.
Do you thank God Samara was up here to ask what the zoodle was? Because I would have had no idea, man. So again, 3 ways. Samara, I know, and the crew, Robin and Courtney, have been pushing the online sales. Make sure you do that. Facebook, again, is up and live. You know, Samara, maybe you can help Tony out. He was trying to take a photo of the QRL with his flip phone and couldn't quite figure that out. So if you can maybe help Tony out, make sure he gets his tickets, that'd be great. And please share with Facebook. Excellent. And then one other announcement before we make sure if anybody else has an announcement, if they have an opportunity to say so. I'm going to read this because this was written to me on a recipe card. 100th anniversary of Worcester Rotary banquet, Thursday, October 7th, Greystone Event Center, full bar, beer, and wine. Okay, so past district governor Phil Mariola and past president gave me this card and said, and come up with something funny to say. So the only highlights we have for the banquet is full bar, beer, and wine. Please come. So, you know, I think there's a program also with the event, but if you're not, folks, you can come and have a drink at the banquet on Thursday, October 7th, at Greystone Event Center. Is there any other announcements that we would want to share from the floor, or am I missing anything? No? Okay. If seeing none, then I'm going to turn things over to Melissa Pierce, who will be introducing our speaker today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Bethia Burke, President of the Fund for Our Economic Future. Bethia was elected President of the Fund for Our Economic Future, an alliance of organizations and individuals dedicated to advancing inclusive economic growth in Northeast Ohio in December 2019. In this role, she brings critical analysis to the region's most pressing challenges, works with diverse stakeholders to find common ground, and advances real solutions in job creation, job preparation, and job access. Bethia joined the fund in 2010 from the private sector, where she led cost risk assessments for a major defense contractor. Since then, she's been integral in the oversight and improvement of the fund's grant-making processes and the development of the fund's strategy. She was primary author of the 2 Tomorrows and has spoken widely on its messages. A native of Shaker Heights, Bethia holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and English from Case Western Reserve University and a master's degree in Applied Economics from Johns Hopkins University. In addition to her time working in the defense sector, she has experience at a strategy consulting firm and spent a year as an English language teaching assistant in France. Let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Bethia.
I haven't been life until I was so in love with coming here so long. I used to get to do this all the time. See folks around the region and talk about our work. But it's been so long since I've done this, given COVID and everybody shutting down, that I had a third kid since my bio has been published. So I don't know what was said on here. I saw that there were 2 boys mentioned. I do have a new-ish baby girl. She's not even that little anymore. She's 8 months. But it just struck me how long it's since that's sort of out and about. So thank you very much for having me today. Again, my name is Bethia Burke. I am with this organization called Fund for Our Economic Future. And today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the fund and our work, and really the connection that we have with Wayne County, where you've had members in our organization from inception that have made a real influence over what we do and how. So I do hope that you'll chime in if you have any questions or comments, either as I go or at the end. The Fund for Our Economic Future is, as you see on the screen, this creative space for equitable economic growth. So what does that mean? So we try to understand what matters to long-term economic vibrancy and then what works. So we know that if we look at outcomes in local places, in the region, really across the nation, that there's a lot of concern about whether or not the US economy is keeping up. Who really benefits when we do see growth. So whether or not people are really connecting to and seeing their incomes rise and being lifted out of poverty as a result of economic. And so when we think about this current circumstance that we're worried about, again, in local places in the region and really across the United States, that in order to get to new and different outcomes, we have to be able to try different things. So a lot of the work that goes into what you see at the back end when a company lands somewhere is able to be in a place to grow, to hire people. But there's a lot of work that goes in on the front end, whether that's with site selectors to figure out where that business should land, whether that is with universities or workforce development organizations to understand if there's people with the skill sets that folks need, whether you're working with transportation agencies to know whether or not somebody can get there. And that work all happens in these systems and these structures where funding streams are limited, they're directed, where people are doing really good work, but you don't really always have the space to try to test out a new program, to figure out a different kind of solution, to understand how you better connect people to jobs. So our work at the fund is to provide a space to try out new things. And that it's really important, again, because if we don't like where we are, the only way to get to a different place is if we're able to do things differently. So we've been around for 18 years. And I was not with the fund when we started in 2004, but when I imagine the origin story, based on what I've been told, I imagine a young Adam Briggs taking out his BlackBerry and typing an address into Akron into his Garmin and driving to a meeting with other leaders from across the region, people like Lud Huck, who I know was a luminary in Wayne County, to work with people from places like Cleveland, Akron, Canton, and Youngstown, to ask questions about what we could do individually and really more importantly, collectively, to try and make a difference in what people were seeing as economic concerns of the day. And that the original focus of the fund was really on this notion of economic transformation, but with a really heavy emphasis on job growth. And so thinking about innovation in new industries, driving entrepreneurship, and these things are really important. We did some work through the fund to support the OARDC in exploring the potential for a food cluster. And today, Jobs Ohio and TUNEO are seeing some greater potential in that area. That this work around innovation and entrepreneurship really, really important, but it wasn't it, right? The economies are more complex than that. And that a big part of the work of the fund has been trying to drive from this any job, anywhere kind of approach to economic development to really thinking about how to focus energy and attention in a strategic way to get to different outcomes. We've got this group of members who come together, again, several from Wayne County. Wayne Economic Development Council has been involved in the work. We've got business leaders, we've got philanthropists, we've got academics who really have come together over this 18-year period to work on what matters and what works in equitable. And then I mentioned that there's this regional approach. So there's a couple of things that the fund has pushed on to try and change. The first is shifting from this idea that economic development should be solely focused on the jobs outcome to really pushing to one that looks at what matters to regional economies. Part and parcel with that is this idea that we are a regional economy. So we work in these places, this 18-county region that has rural counties, urban counties, ex-urban counties, and that together we are a bigger economic engine than any local place is on its own. And that there are some shared concerns and shared priorities, even though the places themselves are very different. I still live outside the Cleveland area, so I drove from Cleveland this morning, and I drove past a lot of farms coming into this location today. I don't drive past that. So you think, when you think about rural places and urban places, we're often focused on those things that divide us. But really, when I think about what matters to a Cuyahoga County and what matters to a Wayne County, there are a lot of things that stack up. So for example, preserving and protecting agricultural land that is abundant in rural areas is the flip side to the coin of trying to redevelop in urban places. Because if we don't care about where jobs locate, we both destroy an asset and we leave places behind. And Wayne County has been one of those places that has been really thoughtful about how you use land so that you can grow industry and still preserve and protect that agricultural industry that's really important to the state and to this local. So we are this, one of the big notions of the fund is that we are this region and we share more than we don't. And that having this perspective that where we can see rural issues, urban issues, ex-urban issues helps us to understand really what is cross-cutting and what matters across places. So I said that we moved from this idea that we should just focus on job growth to then thinking about what is equitable economic development. And that for us, it falls into these three areas. Job creation is still really important. And we should think about what kinds of jobs they are. Job preparation, can somebody get access to the job? Who is that job for? And job access, where are they physically located? Can somebody get from here to there? And that this idea of equitable economic growth is not just a feel-good, I personally care about people, and I hope many of you do too, but it's not just a feel-good that we want people to be able to have a family sustaining wage. It is really also a business imperative. That those places that that have economies that cut off access by race or by place to whole groups of people will never realize their full It will be harder to access talent, for example. You'll be more focused. You'll have to focus more energy and attention on social services. That it's really figuring out how we have equitable access to opportunity as part and parcel of having long-term economic rights. And this all goes towards our long-term mission of having a continuously regenerating economy with good jobs and rising incomes for all, regardless of race or place. And so that's what we're working on through the work of the fund and through the work of our partners who are in it. We do that in a couple of ways. There's a lot of things on this slide, but effectively we come together as an organization. We have a civic network. We fund some stuff. So I'm going to talk about an initiative that has connected here in Lake County. We do that with flexible resources. We have a small staff. We spend a lot of time on research and analysis, trying to understand what matters to the economy. Lift things up to the civic agenda where we weren't talking about issues before. Transportation is what I'll talk about today, but transportation as a limiting factor to people getting employment was not something that was talked about throughout the region 5 years ago. And then we try to use our national reputation to bring more resources back into Northeast Ohio. Right, so what does that have to do with Wayne County? So I think a lot of you might be thinking, hey, here we have a lot of great economic growth. You all are doing better in this county than other places in the region. So why does this matter here? And I would put forth that that no matter what kind of economic circumstance you're in, 3 things matter: people, place, and innovation. And that to keep and maintain the growth and the trajectory that you're on, that those are issues that overlap with other places throughout the region. And so, for example, this idea of how do people get to jobs. We have, through the fund, been connected to 4 AMRE projects over the past 4 years. One of them was on transportation. At the same time that we were connected to that project, we, the fund, were funding a person to go down to the State House to talk to folks in the legislature about whether or not, whether there was an opportunity to have some increased funding for transportation. We were seeing this as an issue. We were hearing over and over again, employers couldn't find people to show up every day on time for work. And that what we were seeing is there's a whole lot of stuff in that issue, right? There's lots and lots of reasons that's happening. One of the reasons was that there was a transportation problem manifesting as a workforce problem. When somebody can't get to work, their car breaks down on their way to work, they're taking a bus that is late, or they miss a connection. Their girlfriend or boyfriend is supposed to drop them off and doesn't. But these transportation problems, the only thing the employer was seeing on the other end was a person not showing up. All of this stuff was happening in between here and there. So we saw this issue, we were hearing about it from a lot of companies, and there was also simultaneously this investigation here in the county to look at whether or not transportation was a limiting factor to access here. And what we heard in the State House was transportation is an urban issue. And that is something that urban places need to solve. It isn't something that is a statewide problem, which was mind-blowing to me. It's like, of course it's a statewide problem. People have to get somewhere. Everybody has to get somewhere, right? But it was clear that that was going to be an uphill climb. But that what we were really seeing is that that while the foundational issue was the same, people couldn't get to jobs, people couldn't get to healthcare, and transportation is a barrier, that the solutions have to be different. So getting from density to density is very different than going from low density to low density. It doesn't mean transportation is not an issue. It doesn't mean we don't need to figure out new ways of doing things. It means that we need to have flexible, more experimental ways of trying to test out new ideas. So in response to that, in response to this recognition that big systems can't change it because they're rigidly sort of designed, but the state wasn't super interested in figuring it out, we launched the State Public Paradox Prize. And Melissa Pearson's agency, Community Action in Medina County, was one of our first winners. Received $100,000 to institute a technology solution that made the transportation service that they were running more effective and connect more people to work. And it has served as the foundation for some longer term systems changes that are needed in order to make that sticky. And so again, while it might not, while at a lot of folks across the state have this mental model that rural places and urban places are quite different and the issues don't overlap, that this transportation need is really showing up everywhere, and it's about how we're addressing and solving. So that's what we try to do at the fund, is to put those pieces together, to pull out the threads and to figure out what we can do differently in order to try and make a difference in the outcomes that we're seeing. There's a lot of stuff like that happening right now, right? It's a really, really weird economic time, where there's a lot of questions about what will happen as a result of the pandemic economy. What will next year look like? What will the next 3 months look like? We don't know what's going to happen with inflation. We don't know if workers who've been working at home are going to go back to work. If a lot of them don't, what happens to the real estate market? What happens to transportation agencies? Women have been missing from the workforce and have not come back at the same levels that men have. I can't see what that one says, but I'm sure it's very important. A big mystery. That supply chains have been, I heard the other day that there was a ketchup shortage. And I almost made her run my ketchup. I have 2 little boys, they eat ketchup on everything. If we can't get ketchup, I mean, they won't eat for the next 6 months. But there's weird things happening, right, with the supply chain, with what's going on in the world. There's a lot of people out of work, but I've heard a lot of companies noting that they can't find anybody to fill jobs. And so we're in this place and in this space where I think that the work of the fund is more important than it's ever been, as we try to figure out which of these things that we're seeing is a long-term need, and what really is just a blip in this really weird 15, 18, maybe 24-month period, but we'll go back to a sense of normal at some point. That's what we're looking at and working on now. And really selfishly, I've got a lot of folks in this room who run companies. I'm really interested in what you're seeing and what you're most concerned about today in this. I'll leave it there. I'm hoping that you're going to give me something back.
Bill?
Go ahead. A question for me? So there are some suppositions. I can tell you why I don't want to go to work. I'm just kidding. I love my job. It's great. So some of the suppositions are that it's childcare based. That one of the things that happened in over the past 12 to 18 months is a lot of centers closed down. And so either centers closed down or they restricted the numbers of spots that childcare centers had open for kids to go to. When that happens, disproportionately women take care of the children. So that's one reason. And that as the economy has opened back up, there has been a lag in the increase in spots. I know with my daughter, we did not know, she was born in November and I went back to work in March. I lucked out that there was a new center that opened near me because otherwise the lists were even longer than historically they have been. It's always been an issue and even longer than historically have been. But a lot of people can't put their kids in childcare. I think another is I don't know how much it's changing. People are genuinely worried about bringing home a virus to their kids. And so when you go to work, so I'm vaccinated, my husband's vaccinated, my kids cannot be vaccinated, they're too young. When we, we're at the point where they're young enough that they're not in that risky category. But there's a bridge, right, between the really young that can't be vaccinated and when you're older and you can be, where it's dangerous and you can't be vaccinated. And so I think some people are really genuinely concerned about bringing the virus home from work. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, there's likely a lot of other reasons why folks aren't, and I don't know if anybody has heard anything different than that, but those are the 2 things that have come up so far. I do not have answers to all of these questions. These are questions that are big mysteries. Go ahead. Yeah, so there's a lot of conversation. We're not doing anything today, but there is a question about whether or not there is something that can be done and can be done. I'd be interested if you're looking at any of that here as your members here together in this kind of environment or in any other environments where you're talking to other businesses who are thinking about Because there is this question about what experiences during the pandemic are people trying to hold on to? I know I faced this with my own small team of 8 folks. I had to decide whether or not to tell them they had to come back into the office. We right now are on 3 days a week in, 2 days a week out. I know people would have preferred that I said that we were at home, that flexibly at home and they could come in whenever they wanted, but that I have this balance, as I'm sure many of you face, where you have to build a workplace culture and also have to make environments good. So there are a lot of discussions going on right now about what the future of work needs to look like, and what did technology enable over the past 15 months that might give a better quality of life to people. And then I think that what I've seen is that companies are coming at this from very different points of view. Some are saying all back in, everything's the same, and they're losing people. Others are really wrestling with what to do, but it's a function of what, of course, your industry is as to what that's possible. So to your question as to what's being done about it, I think that we're at the front end of understanding whether there are groups of employers who are willing to push on the questions of job quality, where I will just say my observation would be in the past 10 years of my work, I have not seen a lot of companies who look internally when they look at the workforce issue. A lot of the look has been external and has said, well, people need to be trained, people need to show up, people need to not be on drugs, people need to not have a record. All that's true. There has been less of an interest in looking at how shifts are designed, how much pay workers are getting, what does sick time, vacation time look like, how do you think about organizing in a way that somebody could do training and advancement while still having a job? And so my opinion is that those companies who are willing to ask those questions of themselves now are more likely to have long-term workforce success. Now, I know there's expense and a lot of growing pains with those kinds of expectations, but I think that this future of work and this job quality conversation is one that has picked up in the last 12 to 15 months. Yeah, go ahead, please. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So I'm wondering if there's anybody here who is experiencing that and looking at those kinds of changes that's willing to share. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
That's to say, so we've done some with automation as well. So we're finding we need to have higher technical skills. So working with, we have great resources here with OSU, things that we're set. So bringing some interns there. meeting with them.
There was somebody back there.
Is your group doing any thought to how you might react to the, I don't know, signal language?
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for asking that. And just to this talent shortage, these talent shortage comments, I have no answers. But I would say one of the things I'm really worried about is that it will take a couple of years for things to level out. And that there will be people who are disconnected from the workforce for that extended period of time. And it gets to be really, really hard to get people back. And that skills atrophy is a real thing. And so I don't have a good solution, but just there are some people have been disconnected from work for a really long time at this point. And the longer that goes on, sort of worse it is. And so are we going to see a chunk of folks who sort of never get back into the economy as a result of the pandemic? The other is, I don't know the degree to which you're Gojo. Gojo and others, if you have the commitment to the work experiences, but that's one of the things that we hear a lot, is that one of the best ways to get somebody to stay when you do training or when you do education is to figure out the connection between a work experience and the degree or the training, and that really the level of career counseling and the level of work experiences that are provided really vary from place to place. And so those places that figure that out, that figure out how to have a really high quality co-op or internship that leads somebody into a long-term path, I think will have a leg up on keeping talent. You get far enough away from your question to forget it. So you talked about tech companies moving from the coast to the Midwest. I have a couple thoughts. One is so far, the data doesn't support that has happened. It may still happen, but that there was a lot of talk about this over the last 15 months. People can work from anywhere. People are going to move. Tech jobs are going to shift. And there was a recent report by the Brookings Institution that we watched looked at where that happened, and effectively, very few of the jobs moved from the coast into the Midwest. There was movement, but they didn't move from the high cost markets into the Midwest markets. I think, though, that the things that we can do to be competitive for those kinds of things, if and when they happen, are the same things that we should be doing all the time. It is increasing the skill set of our talent pool, caring about K-12 and undergraduate and graduate school education, because where those companies look to go is where they can get access to talent. It's the same things we're already talking about the companies that are here, right? And it's that there are places that are attractive for companies to go to. And so thinking about not just the development of a site for a company, but what does the overall feel of a community feel like? And how do we do that in a way that we're not, and Wayne County is better at this than other places in the region, but that we're not just plopping companies out in greenfields that aren't connected to or nearby amenities, but also even just other companies that we're thinking about the place-based industrial growth and not just a single job location. So I think it's the same things that we need to do, and there is talk about this with organizations that we work with, like Team Northeast Ohio, for example. The data just doesn't yet bear out that shift is happening. Anything else? Yeah. Great, thank you.
We appreciate you coming down to the big city of Worcester today and in recognition of your time. We have this cool rotary rendition of our wheel here on this awesome piece of wood that has been manipulated. And look at this, all stenciled out by the Boys Network, Village Network, sorry. It was, used to be, now it's the Village Network, right up here in Worcester. So thank you again for being here. Yep, we appreciate it. A couple of things too, that we talk about FFEF, the Briggs family, but Huck being a part of the establishment of it back in '04. I started in economic development in early 2000s, and there was a lot of discussion that south of Route 18 and Medina, civilization pretty much ended. So over the last 18, 20 years, I think we've done a really good job as a county of growing awareness that our economy is strong, we have a lot to offer, and you know, the cost of living here is good. We just struggle to bring the talent in, bring the infrastructure to support our industry, but we're well placed to make sure that we have a strong community moving forward. So we appreciate your efforts in getting the word out that Wayne County is a good place to be. A couple of other announcements too before we completely take off. Michael Davidson, Big Mike, is the winner because he was the first one to buy tickets at the Meal with a Mission. Big Mike right here. Today at Rotary, he sold 8 tickets. Yeah. So Samara and Robin, Courtney, and Greg, you guys are up to 8. So you only have 192 more to reach your goal. So make sure you get either your money to Greg, tell him that invoice you, go online to Facebook, Rotary, and make sure you sign up for Meals with a Mission. And lastly, you want to be here next week. Next week, we've got Adam Briggs, who will be and also Ray Lisey, who will be talking about their experiences with the exchange program through Rotary. Is that right, Ray? Or are you just finding out about this? Ray's like, oh, dang it. I've got some slides to do. So, hey, folks, we hope everybody has a great week. Stay safe, and we stand adjourned.
All of our